Resident Evil 4 Remake is absolutely fucking amazing. Oh my god, where do I even begin? Hello, everybody. It's Duke Sparrow, and this is another rage take on. It's The last one was actually the Callisto Protocol. Y'all probably seen that. You know that I didn't really like that game. But yeah, this is about the Resident Evil 4 remake, which, by now I'm sure a lot of you have played and beaten. I have yet to get all the collectibles, which we'll soon get to. We'll get those real soon. But yeah, holy shit, where do I even begin with this game? How about Capcom? You have overdone yourselves. Congrats. I would give you guys a 10-minute standing ovation because I never in a million years thought they would actually remake one of the greatest games of all time. Because let's be real here. The original Resident Evil 4 was such a huge groundbreaking game that came out when it first released in 2005. It literally was like capturing lightning in a bottle. And like prior to the release of the remake, we all were theorizing how exactly was Capcom going to um, retell such a classic game that we've all come to love and admire with all our hearts. And man, when it came out in March of this year, I was in love. I just fell in love with Resident Evil 4 even more. And dare I say, move over Resident Evil 4, you have a superior. The remake itself. And the reason I say that is because this remake does a lot of things better compared to the 2005 version. For starters, for starters, the combat itself is a lot more fluid. It's actually the game itself kind of has a perfect balance between action and survival horror, something which the original Resident Evil 4 kind of lacked. I mean, there were moments in the original that did have a horror atmosphere, but for the most part, it was generally your run of the mill B action movie shooter, and it really didn't take itself that much seriously for the most part. But in the remake, Capcom decided to go for a far more grounded, uh, more darker, serious take on the original Resident Evil 4, and I liked it. I liked the new take on the story because this time it really felt like a story that had a lot of themes about failure, about wanting to save somebody, all that stuff. But yeah, it's a game itself that really outshines the original in more ways than one. And I'm be more than happy to explain one of the reasons why. For starters, like I said, the combat's a lot more fluid, and this time you can actually move and shoot. Whereas unlike in the original, where you actually stopped, aim, shoot, stopped, aim, shoot. Oh no, this time you aim and it can actually move. Something which I can definitely see being a huge improvement, and it also it really it enhances the combat sequences because you're not just stopping, aiming. No, in fact, you're shooting enemies, you're moving around, you keep going around, you shoot them. Really the combat is really was great. Oh, and also, by the way, the knife that we all would always spam on the enemies every time we knock them on their asses when we shoot them in the head and kick them to the floor. This time, this thing has durability, meaning you can't just use this thing all the time. You got to conserve its durability, which is such a great mechanic to work with because it encourages that you have to not just rely on the shooting in the head and slashing them with a knife. No, in fact, you got to get really creative when it comes to dealing with enemies in certain sections. It encourages you to kind of think outside of the box and kind of think to yourself how you're going to approach every single combat sequence. Yeah, I mean the combat itself is great. The weapons are absolutely phenomenal to use. Uh, for starters, the starting pistol itself originally it was more or less in the original RE4, the OG Silver Ghost pistol. You used it, but then you exchanged it for the other pistols, such as the Punisher, the Red 9, and the Blacktail. Yeah, you went with those because they were obviously a lot more better. The Red 9 especially. But this time in the remake, the game itself really encourages you to kind of give every single weapon a chance. It kind of also encourages the idea that each weapon has its pros and cons. I mean, for example, the Silver Ghost, this time, it's actually a handgun you can use all the way through the game. But in order to make it better, I mean, even after upgrading it, the only way to kind of make it better is if you got your hands on the laser sight to kind of, make far more precise shots. That is. Oh, and the Red 9 also makes a return. And I did mention laser sights, but this time in the remake, laser sights do not apply to all weapons. It only applies to the Silver Ghost, the Punisher, and a DLC handgun called the Sentinel 9. Red 9, for example, it's great with its firepower and damage, but you're gonna need to seek out the stock if you want to make far more precise shots with this thing. Because without it, you're not gonna be able to land your shots for the most part. The weapon variety is great. Most of the weapons come back from the original, although with an addition of new ones such as the mine thrower, which is a mini crossbow, which shoots darts that actually you can actually retrieve. You can use over and over and over, which is a great way to conserve ammo. Oh, and you can also add some attachable mines to the weapon itself, which are like explosive, mines you can shoot on the ground. Enemies step on them, it explodes. Crazy shit like that. But yeah, the weapon variety is absolutely great to work with. It's like you're given a lot of choices. It's like you don't even know where to start. It's like you don't know where to start. And that's the great thing because, like I said before, the weapons themselves, they have their pros and cons, meaning you're not going to just stick with just a certain number of weapons. No, in fact, the game itself encourages you to try out all of them, see which one fits in your own game style. But yeah, the combat's great. The story itself, there have been some major overhauls for the game's story. Number one, number one, let's talk about the characters. Leon himself, he's voiced by the same voice actor, Nick Apostolides. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. He's voiced by him from Resident Evil 2, the remake, which gives off a far more consistent connection from Resident Evil 2 to 4. Um, yeah, he's great. He plays a far more experienced Leon this time. He kind of has his own one-liners, which even though this game itself is a lot more serious compared to the original game, this game does have Leon sometimes cracking one-liners here and there, but not really kind of, which doesn't entirely come across as funny. I mean, I do get a chuckle every now and then. But yeah, Nick was great as Leon. Leon's great as a character. I think he might as well be the greatest male character in Resident Evil over Chris, that is. But yeah, let's talk about Ashley. Ashley, oh my god. Ashley, I think this might come across as ironic, but holy hell, after playing this remake, I think Ashley is one of my personal favorite characters in the Resident Evil series. And they've actually improved her a lot. Going from a incredibly entirely helpless damsel in distress, she actually sometimes helps Leon, which really, really, really is such a huge improvement from the otherwise annoying, bratty 2005 version of Ashley that we've all come to hate over the years. She's actually genuinely likable this time. It's like her character is so relatable. She's very sweet and genuine. It really makes you it really gives you a purpose to really want to return her home safe to her family. Another character that I felt got a huge improvement was Luis Sierra. Yeah, the ladies' man himself. Yeah, he comes back, ladies and gentlemen, for those who haven't played the remake. The man himself, aside from, I mean, let me put it to you this way. Luis in the original Resident Evil 4, I liked him. It's just that when he got killed by Sadler in the original, I mean, his death was kind of like, oh man, I actually was starting to really like that guy. But oh well, he's dead. No, in the remake, Luis gets a major improvement this time. No, in fact, he gets a bigger role. He's a lot more. He's a lot more important to the story. I mean, that's not to say he wasn't important to the story in the original game. It's just that in this game, it has a lot more weight to it this time. Luis himself, he's revealed to be an ex Umbrella worker. It really it gives you, it gives you. I feel like it's every Resident Evil fan's wet dream to make Luis into a former Umbrella researcher. It really kind of gives you an idea that this guy, he caused the destruction in Raccoon City, and you're given an idea that this guy himself, he has a lot of weight on his shoulder. He has a shit ton of guilt. Another character. Let's see. Another character I have to mention is Ada, which, as I've heard these past few months following the game's release, Lily Gal, the voice actress who voices Ada, has been harassed online. Please don't do that to her. That's not fine. Even though I didn't like her take on Ada, I wouldn't go as far as to harass her. That's not cool. Don't do that. Don't even think about doing that. Ada herself, for the most part, it's yeah, I'm 50-50 on her. I mean, I kind of get what Ada was going for in this remake, being mysterious, cold, and emotionless. But I don't know. She really sounded incredibly bored in this game, like she didn't want to be there, which I guess kind of fits with Ada as a character, as a whole, as a character, because I mean that's basically what Ada is. She's just a person who's there just to do her job, not really make friends and whatnot. Krauser comes back, and they actually made the Operation Javier mission from Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles canon, which is translated really well into this game. It really makes Leon and Krauser's relationship in this game. It gives it a lot more weight and meaning. It gives you an idea that these two were once friends, but now they're enemies, butting heads with each other. It was such a sad moment for me when I saw these two fighting, because at one point these two were actually bros, but now they're just going at it. Let's talk about the villains. The villains are, of course, as they go as this: the Big Cheese, Torres Mendez, the tall ass trench coat wearing Mr. X looking guy is back. Ramon Salazar, the midget, and Sadler, the main antagonist, is back as well. What do I say about these three? Well, let's start with Mendez. Mendez himself, going from an almost with a character that almost has no information about him in this remake. I've actually felt sorry for this guy because if you read on the documents that are scattered around the village section, you're given an idea that this guy was manipulated by the Los Illuminados cult. That they manipulated him because he believed that they were there to help his people, and he was brainwashed by the Lost Plagas. And man, I felt so bad killing him. But I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, it was great to at least put him out of his misery. Salazar's back, and he there's almost not much that's changed about him. He's still an annoying little shit. I mean, it's what can I say? It's just Salazar. But I feel like the one character that I felt was incredibly well. The one villain that I felt was really really translated well into this remake was Sadler, because Saphir Hunter herself, she mentioned that Sadler in the original Resident Evil 4 came across as a Saturday morning villain who explained his plans to Leon. 90% into the game, you actually do get to meet Sadler in person. It's just that throughout the game, you actually see Sadler in these, what is it, these mind transmission visions that Leon and Ashley have, which is a side effect of Lost Plagas, the Lost Plagas parasite that's inside of them. Yeah, in Sadler, he appears 90% into the game in person, which I guess you could say he could have been involved in the story in person more, but I didn't really mind this much. I really felt like this was such a great choice because I really felt like the original Sadler was just your run of the mill, oh, I'm going to take over the world villain. No, in fact, this Sadler came across to me as a far more menacing and a lot more scary, I'll admit. He creeped me the fuck out. Yeah, the characters, they're great. Some major improvements, some downgrades in regards to Ada. Like I said, please stop harassing Lily Gal. That shit's not cool. But anyway, the enemies themselves, some enemies have actually been given some improvements. Some, for the most part, stay the same. The, it's this game is just great. This remake is one of the greatest remakes I have ever played. Certainly up there with Dead Space. Definitely up there with. Oh god, what the fuck was that game? Oh, hang on, just give me a second. No, it wasn't a remake. It wasn't a remake. I forgot. I had lost my train of thought. I forgot the game, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, the mercenary mode is amazing in this game. It's great. It's great. In fact, Luis is a playable character this time. Something I've always wanted all these years to have my man Luis be a playable character in Resident Evil 4 Mercenaries mode. Oh man, this game is an absolute 10 out of 10. I mean, I know I was kind of very, not in a very cheery mood in the last video, but oh my god. The Resident Evil 4, I'll play this game over Callisto Protocol any day. Any day. So my conclusion, Resident Evil 4 remake, 10 out of 10. Hands down. Oh man, I can't wait to see what else remakes Capcom does. Man, it would be so dope if they did a Code Veronica remake. I mean, I know there's consideration for a Resident Evil 5 remake, but I feel like we're getting a little too ahead of ourselves. But I feel like Resident Evil 5, it could happen as a remake, but for now, I feel like the next remake should appropriately be Code Veronica. What do y'all think? Probably put your comments below. I don't know. I personally think Code Veronica should come first, then Resident Evil 5. This is Duke Sparrow signing off.